Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alex Dreyfus, the CEO of Chiliz and Socios.com. I'm in Malta right now, and I'm very happy to do another live video and a live AMA. Hopefully, I'm going to answer to a lot of questions first, and then you'll ask on Twitter or on YouTube some of your questions. I have Joe that is hiding behind the camera that will help me or give me the question after my quick presentation. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of topics. The first one, as an introduction, I will say that we are a very lucky entity, very lucky company. We grew significantly for the last few months, I will say a year and a half now. We are probably 275 to 280 employees all over the world. That include offices in US, in Turkey, in Brazil, in France, in London, in Switzerland, in Korea, and in London, in Milan, in Spain, of course, where we have our main HQ. So we grew a lot. And one of the reasons of that is because we focus on building. I know this video is actually today mainly about Chiliz, not necessarily the chain, but Chiliz as a whole. It's not to talk about sports, it's not to talk about football, it's to talk about product, it's to talk about what we are building as a company and as an ecosystem. But what's exciting is, despite this massive crypto winter, the fact that the market are slightly choppy, and of course it does affect us like any other crypto-related asset or entities, we still have decided to continue to invest and to build. And the good news is, because we don't have any like investors, private equity fund, or like hedge funds or whatever, we just focus on building. I'm the main shareholder of the company, and I think it's important to share that with you. And my focus as an entrepreneur and as a CEO is to deliver more and more in the next few weeks, few months, and few years for the fans, for the users, and for the clubs. Let's talk a little bit about Socios. That will be one of our first focus. Socios, the Chiliz Chain, the US strategy, regulatory, Barcelona. As you know, we've announced a big news 1st of August with Barcelona, talking about listings and new FTOs. Gonna talk about payments, digital payments, and a couple of other things. Let's start first with Socios. I think I've done a video on Twitter 4 or 5 months ago. I don't know why actually it disappeared, but in 2022 and in 2023, our main focus are education. We have to educate media, we have to educate users, we have to educate clubs, we have to educate regulatory bodies, we have to we have to educate every single parties in that ecosystem that can help building what we are doing. And our priority in 2022 was really and mainly about developing the product, and was really about not really signing new teams. I think there is no more teams really that we can sign, but rather consolidating what we have in our network. The network effect is actually very important, because we are not a Web3 platform for a single entity. No, we are creating an ecosystem. We are creating an environment where we're gonna add as many IP, as many brands as we can, because we do believe that there is a massive interest or opportunity for fans and users to interact when we have all of these teams. And it's very similar to Facebook. Can you create your own Facebook page outside of Facebook? Kind of, yes, it's a web page. But because you have some content or utility on your Facebook page, and because there are more sports team and non-sports related communities, it is more valuable. That's exactly what we are trying to build. Not a social media, by far, but an ecosystem where we're going to have all of these brands. And where we clearly evolved the last few weeks is when we, not few weeks, few months now, is by the launch of all the features that we have in like rewards and milestone and achievement, all the things that you've seen today if you downloaded the latest app, which is the 2.39. You can find it in the App Store since this morning. And we really want to show that the future and the growth of Socios.com as a platform is going to be about the gamification of the fan engagement. What does it mean? It means the more you are loyal to the teams, the more you engage with the team and or the teams that you are fan with, the more you're going to be rewarded. You're going to be rewarded with experiences, you're going to be rewarded with points that you can redeem against merchandising or other things. But it's all about trying to reward users and fans all over the world. And the all over the world part is critical. I always try to share that Socios' first mission and priority is mainly to try to engage I would say the non-domestic fans, the fans that are all over the world, that are more casual, that don't have the same interaction than someone who lives in the city of the team that is supporting could have. And that's where we can bring value to the clubs, because clubs all over the world don't have the financials sometimes, or even the technical resources to create international networks of fan-related experiences, or even to sometimes support the sponsors that they have globally, but to support them locally. And the reason I'm saying that is because we grew in terms of territories for the last few weeks, few months. You know, we launched Indonesia. Actually, we haven't launched yet, but we've announced 3 teams, the 3 biggest teams in Indonesia, and we launch, I believe, the app as well in Indonesian. We're gonna announce another country by the end of September, because I will go there, where we had to get the approval of the regulator in that country with a massive teams in Southeast Asia, and the reason we grow all over the world, that's true in Mexico, that's true in Colombia, that's true in Brazil and Argentina, of course. The reason we do that, it's not only to, of course, engage and create new features for the local fans with the local teams, but also for the fans of Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, UFC, or any other teams or sports property in these territories. You know, in Indonesia, for example, there is more than 200 million people. It's one of the biggest soccer or football fan base, but a very low engagement and monetization because teams don't have resources and support to do that. So one of the main purposes of Socios.com in the future is going to continue to invest in our territory growth in order to support this international team on top of the local teams. The gamification of fan engagement, we started a little bit before the summer. We are more, I would say, aggressive in a way since today, because we launched the version 2.0 of this, and that's important, but that's not the end. We're gonna have more and more utility. Utility, of course, started with voting. We always define how it started, and fan tokens started with the voting, because at the end, that's how we decided to grow and to build. But the reality is the voting is just one of the benefit, one of the utility that we have around fan tokens. You have to imagine that fan tokens in the next 2 to 5 years are going to evolve more and more into a membership or a loyalty program, kind of a digital membership program that will be tokenized, rather than just a cryptocurrency, which is not. I always fight, actually, to explain that fan tokens are not cryptocurrencies because you don't spend them. You don't redeem them. They are digital assets. They are crypto assets. They are not currencies. And that's a very important point to keep in mind when we define fan tokens. One of the questions sometimes people ask us is what happened if, didn't happen till for now, but maybe one day it will, what happened if Socios.com terminate a contract with a team? What happened to the token? Well, that's where it's interesting. Fan tokens will always exist. You will always have them. They're always on the blockchain. You cannot delete them, so they will always be there. Now, the reality, if when you look at our business, for the last 3 years and a half, we've been the exclusive utility provider of this token. That's what we do. The only way to engage with these fan tokens today, it's with Socios.com. In the next few weeks, in the next few months, and in the next few years, this will change. These fan tokens will be available not only on the app of the team, but as well, because we're opening the Chiliz Chain 2.0, and I'm going to talk about that after, you're going to have third-party developers, third-party entities, wallets, and many other crypto-related or non-crypto, could be sports, merchandising company, and others, that will be able to interact with the fan tokens. So actually, interestingly, even if we were, just for the sake of the argument, to fail as a company one day, fan tokens will always exist. And the clubs will actually continue to provide utility either directly or indirectly to these token holders. And that's where it's very interesting, because it's going to force us to continue to open that ecosystem. We don't want an ecosystem that is completely closed around Socios. We want more and more developers, apps, clubs, media, e-commerce platforms, and social media platforms to actually engage with these fan tokens. I cannot disclose all the details, but there is, for example, a significant social media platform that I think recently made a few announcements about what we call token-gated experiences. You can imagine that some of these social media platforms at some point are going to integrate the Chiliz Chain 2.0 and our fan tokens, meaning that if you own a fan token of that team, and if there is an interaction on that social media platform, you will be able to have more benefits. Has nothing to do with Socios. It's just about the fan tokens. And that's where we are going to invest in the next weeks for sure, but months and years. And actually, we already have some pilot being developed right now with a few big teams where you're going to be able to have some features that are available today in Socios app will be available in the Clubs app. And that will be interesting. Now, there is as well sometimes a question like, yeah, well, if you can do that in the Socios, in the Clubs app, why do we need the Socios app? Well, that's where what we do matters. Because we can invest where clubs can't. The fact that we are investing money in a regulatory approval, in technology, in AML, anti-money laundering, KYC, customer services, payments, everything that we do almost like could be called a fan token as a service, if you prefer. This is where Socios and Chiliz are relevant. And that's where we're going to try to push and more the fact that these tokens are going to grow outside of just Socios, and where they will have their own life, and where you will have, for example, talking about metaverse, where because you own a Barcelona token and you go on the virtual Camp Nou in one or several metaverse that will exist today or in the future, this is not dependent anymore of Socios. But we're gonna facilitate that. And all of this will be based out of the Chiliz Chain, and it will be funded and fueled originally by Socios, but the more we grow, the less dependent it will be. And that's going to be very exciting. One of the things that you don't see behind the scene is the amount of work that our job requires in terms of regulatory, either from a regulatory point of view or sometimes even from an advertising point of view. I give you an example. When we did some TV ad in Spain, you need to be registered as an entity, and of course your TV ad has to be approved by the regulator, the advertising regulator. And it's true actually in France, and it's true in a few other countries. As you know, today we've announced that we got what we call registered. So technically we got regulated in Italy since I think last Friday. This is 6, 8, 9 months of work easily. And what we've announced today in Italy, we will announce the same in a few other countries in the next few weeks and few months. Because we've started that process long time ago for most of them, but it's a very long process in order to not fit the requirements, because we usually fit pre-requirements, but mainly to design and define and make sure we set up the right structure to make it happen. But the regulation is an important point. It's an important point because when you work with all of the teams, all of the brands, like these brands, for example, of course, but all of the 150 plus brands all over the world, we have to be more careful than most of crypto companies in the space. We have to really focus much more on regulation and compliance, because we cannot afford to fail that part. So we are investing a lot. We have a massive internal team for this. We have, of course, the best resources outside of the company. But we're going to continue what we've achieved today in Italy. We're going to continue to do that all over the world, including in US. And we're going to continue to invest in order to develop not only Socios, fan tokens, and Chiliz. And this kind of 3 big verticals for us are all connected with each other, but yet are all in a way independent of each other. one of the things we want to develop, I mean, we release more or less a Socios app every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We call that a sprint. And there are more and more features. I do have the roadmap. I cannot share it with you for commercial reason, but do have the roadmap till the end of the year with more and more gamification, with more and more benefits. And I hope you will like it, obviously. Any ideas that you may have in the future for the Socios app only, feel free to engage with us, because we need to now work on the roadmap for 2023, and that's why we have 60, I think, developers in the company right now dedicated on that. One of the things I'd love to do, and Joe, that actually was a part of, or was there 4 years ago almost when we started and everything, is we have the token hunt. Where you go and hunt every day around you the SSU and sometimes some Chiliz. And just as a reminder, when we started that, which was November 2019, early 2020, was just before COVID. When COVID happened, we actually had to change the formula of the app to incentivize people to stay at home instead of going outside. That was a bit ironic, but that's what we've done. Now we obviously put back the fact that you have to walk and you have to go outside of your point to chase and hunt these tokens, a bit like Pokemon Go. But now when we look at what StepN and few other platforms did, where they reward the fact that you do sports and you move to get rewarded, it's something we are looking at. How we can maybe give you more either SSU or fan tokens or Chiliz or XP into the platform, the more you will not only own tokens, but also work to get these tokens. And on StepN, for example, you need to own an NFT that is a shoe. And then the better the shoe, the more multipliers or whatever you get. Here you could imagine where you have the more fan tokens you own, the more reward you get when you walk and stuff like this. So we are looking at that kind of as well of innovation. Sometimes we have to look around us. We know how to use our platform and our fan tokens, but sometimes there are good ideas outside of our own, of course. NFTs. We talked a lot in the past. I talked a lot, maybe too much, who knows. For those who don't know, our first contract in 2018 with Juventus and PSG, actually there is not the word NFT, there is the word digital collectible. So that's something that has been in our head since the beginning of our venture and our product. We are working, and we're going to work, and we will announce some deals with leading NFT games / collectible, let's say, platforms soon, where, for example, whoever has the existing NFTs of highlights and moments of one league or another league, because we don't do that and we don't want to do it, we will be able to integrate that in Socios. So if you own a Paris Saint-Germain, if you own a Serie A token, a Juventus token or Inter Milan token, or if you own a Barcelona token, you could earn by staking, which is in the pipe right now in Socios. You could earn NFTs that could be done by third party, not by us. So we're going to become also a little bit more open in a way that Socios.com will become more and more multi-chain. This will be announced as well in a few weeks with the first NFTs being minted on another chain than what we've done before, because before it was on Ethereum. In the future, it will be also, of course, on Chiliz Chain, but in the meantime, it will be on one of the leading successful NFT-related chain, and that will be integrated in Socios. So you can imagine that at some point, Socios will become almost like what other purely crypto wallets are. It's a place where you hold tokens from different chains. The difference is with Socios, you can have the utility of the tokens that you are holding. And we aim to connect multiple chains, not necessarily for fan tokens, because it's very unlikely that they are relevant at that point, but definitely for NFTs or other features that we are working on. I wish you can see what's happening in front of me, because we have our friend Richard fixing the things. We saw you, Richard. Other things we are looking at, not looking because we've done it as a test in the past, but we haven't yet provided the utility. So it's a bit disappointing for now, just because we don't have time to do everything, unfortunately, all the time, and I apologize for that. But we will continue to pilot and test NFT rewards that we've done. And we're also going to do something that I believe very strongly, which are PFPs. So the profile pictures as NFTs. I do believe strongly that the recognition of a social status of you being a super fan of Paris Saint-Germain, a super fan of Barcelona, a super fan of UFC, or super fan of whatever, and you want to share that into your Instagram account as a profile picture, or your Facebook, or TikTok, or anything else, that's going to become valuable. And that's something we are looking at with the clubs themselves, because we have the ability to aggregate that on a global basis with all of the clubs we are working with, and that will make total sense on Chiliz Chain. Literally, PFPs are going to be a main focus for us, at least, in Chiliz Chain and Socios. Talking about Chiliz Chain, we are on track for the launch for now, so that's pretty good. I don't know which phase are we. Joe, you know what's the number of the phase? 3. So we are on phase 3 of our roadmap for now. Announcing soon the next waves, and we still focusing on launching the Chiliz Chain mainnet by the end of the year. For now, it's in the right track. So very happy about that. Joe, that is here, is going to start to leak or hint on Twitter. So on Chiliz Twitter, please go on Chiliz Twitter in a few seconds. He's going to show you some screenshot of actually the bridge of the Chiliz Chain, the stacking of the Chiliz Chain, and even more importantly, the NFT minting platform of the Chiliz Chain. So this is happening. That has been developed already. We are testing. It's going to go on the test net in a few weeks. And then when we will go in a mainnet, you will eventually have access to this, of course. We do have a decent demand from a lot of developers, sports-related, of course, but not only sports-related. Our team was in US, actually. One of our big managers right now is in US. And we've made significant advancement in big leagues that wants to embrace, let's say, Chiliz Chain, because they do see the value of what we are building. They do see the ecosystem we're building, and this should happen as well, either by the end of the year or most likely early next year. US is a strong focus for us, and I will talk about it a little bit later. I teased already before on Twitter. I'm going to tease again now, and we'll do a proper announcement later, but we will announce a $50 million fund for Chiliz Chain developers, and actually also a little bit Socios developers, meaning that we will fund and fuel developers, third parties, companies that wants to develop new features that will either be integrated in the Socios app, but most importantly, outside of the Socios app. So you have a lot of developers in every single country who are going to get some grants and funds to develop on Chiliz Chain in order to bring more utility to the fan tokens and to the clubs. Could be ticketing, could be games, could be a lot of things that we don't know, and it's up to the developers to develop, but we're going to fund that. And that's important because, again, we want to become a much more open ecosystem than we were before. When we started Socios and Chiliz, it was a very much closed ecosystem because we wanted to protect the IPs and the brands and the sports team we are working with. But now that we feel comfortable with the amount that we have, with the network effect, with the trust that we've built with these teams and the users, of course, now it's the right time to really open that ecosystem. And it's happening. You will see the first pilots and the first features in the next few weeks. I think I already leaked one of them on Twitter, but there will be more to come very, very soon. And that's going to be our main focus, I think, in 2023, is to really build the ecosystem. That ecosystem will be led by, at some point, developers, meaning that we're going to have to organize hackathon, and we're going to have to organize proper conferences, Chiliz conferences, not at all Socios, Chiliz conferences in few places in the world. We will announce very soon one of the biggest, how I'm going to call that, backer of one of the biggest blockchain that is investing in the Chiliz ecosystem, that will develop and allocate resources for that. And that will be a strong signal, actually, to have them on board, because they are super experienced. They are super experienced in organizing as well hackathons and developers conferences all over the world. So that's going to be interesting, I think, in a month, 2 months max. I talked recently, well, last week, or the week before, I talked about the fact that the clubs will eventually become nodes and validators. Let's go back about the blockchain. The blockchain at the end is a sum of nodes and validators, ledgers, and that secure, by the fact that they are decentralized, they are securing the blockchain and the network. Right now, the Chiliz Chain 1.0 is obviously mainly run by us. Chiliz Chain 2.0 will be mainly run by the clubs. And to achieve that, actually, by the clubs and by the Chiliz stakers. You as a stakeholder of Chiliz, you will be able to be part of a pool that will eventually stake Chiliz and become a super node or a super validator. And that's true as well for the clubs. And at first, our dream is that in the next 2, 5, 10 years, 100% of the network will actually be run by the sports industry, not by us at all. We will be one node, obviously, and will be one validators, but most of the others will be Chiliz token holders, including clubs. And to achieve that, there is 2 things. One, we will fuel and fund some allocation first to some clubs in order for them to become part of that network. But then at some point, we're going to push in order that some of the revenue generated by them as a fan token revenue will be translated into Chiliz that they can put in staking in order to secure the network. And that's where it's going to become interesting. In a way, of course, it's not a short term, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but imaging a network, a blockchain that is fully decentralized, where sports team, IP, brands will actually be in control of it, and will be eventually rewarded by transaction fees. Whatever happens, is it because there is a ticketing happening into the platform? Is it because there is some certification of jersey that's happening on the platform through NFTs? There is a lot of application that will be developed eventually by third party, not by Socios, that will be run on the Chiliz chain, that will generate trading fees, and these trading fees will eventually go into Chiliz token holders through the staking and the node validators. And we hope we will eventually push this initiative with the clubs. And of course, one of them will be Barcelona, because due to the relationship that we've built recently with them, we're going to try to innovate quite a lot there. Talking about Barcelona, we've announced recently the fact that we acquire 24.5% of a dedicated vehicle that is called Barcelona Studios, or Barça Studios, which has more or less all the new digital rights, NFT, metaverse, tokens, everything that is not traditional, I will say, and that we acquired that for 100 million euro. This is a very long-term investment for us. This is a big bet, obviously. This is also one of the biggest brands in the world in terms of IP and value. And we are pretty excited about that, because even though it's not a short-term bet, it's a long-term bet, we do believe we can bring value to the clubs, to the fans, and therefore transform that into a success. When we talk about metaverse, first of all, there is no metaverse today as it's a 3D game where you're going to be into it. For me, the metaverse is actually the digital universe. It's the digital identity. My Twitter account is part of the metaverse. It is part of my digital identity outside of my real life. For us, metaverse, there will be no one metaverse. There will be plenty of metaverse, whatever that means. There will be plenty of universe, games, ecosystem where Barcelona or other teams can be part of. It's not for everybody, but definitely some other teams. We will be able probably to build at some point the new Camp Nou into one or several metaverse, which will eventually give you some benefits. Why not? And it's a bit the same with NFTs. NFTs are not a product. They're a technology. So you may or may not hate NFTs, or you may love or not love NFTs. It doesn't matter. NFTs are a technology. The question is, how do you use the tech to have a usable product and something that makes sense from a user point of view? And there are already few initiatives. Of course, Sports Collectible are one of them. But that's just maybe not 1%, but that's just one case of how you can use NFTs. And we believe there is much more to come, either by us, by third-party developers, or by other partners we're going to work with. We will obviously put a lot of resources into our Barcelona relationship, meaning that we expect to try probably a little bit more things thanks to the Barca token, or the Bar token for now. And we hope we're going to be a bit creative and experiment a few things that we will eventually scale to other teams, either on Socios or on Chiliz. Talking a little bit about US, still on track. We are planning to release the US app by the end of the summer. I think end of the summer is 23rd of September or 22nd, so most likely before that date. It's on track already. The app has been actually already sent to the app stores and everything, so it's in the pipe. Our US strategy is a little bit different than the rest of the world. Why? Different sports, completely different sports, different regulatory framework, one country of 300 million or 350 million people, one currency, one language, completely different than the rest of the world. So our product will be tuned for not only fit the local requirements, but also be more focused on probably the mindset and the mentality there. It's definitely going to be more focused on loyalty and gamification than one we do in the rest of the world. And here there is two topics. There is the topics of the international fan tokens and the US fan tokens. US fan tokens still subject to a regulatory framework that we are working with right now with the leagues in order to go through. This will not be part of the first launch of the US app. The US app is first and foremost for our international tokens and American users. Of course, there will be the US teams, but not yet as it is today with the tokens. And we hope to launch the first tokens by the end of the year, all on the Chiliz Chain. At the end, the US app is going to be very interesting because it's going to be a massive case of how to use Chiliz Chain 2.0 to a bigger scale. And we are pretty confident that some of the teams, because I think we have more than 60 or 70 teams that we have announced for now, most of these teams want to launch like as soon as possible, but like us, they're waiting a bit of not a green light, but a bit of guidance and clearance from a regulatory framework. And politics move a little bit lower than we do or that teams would like to. So we are working in a framework that already exists today, and you will see how we launch the app. But the US app will be, when we launch it by end of September, will be a soft launch, because there will be probably some bugs and features, so it will be a soft launch, then we will grow. And exactly the same way when we launched the Socios app 3 years ago, in November it will be 3 years, 6th of November, I think. When we launched Socios app 3 years ago, there was one team, Juventus. And there was only 2 features, I think, token hunt and voting and voting. Now it grew significantly, and we're going to go to the same path in US. We're going to go step by step. Not going to be a splash of everything at the same time. We have to learn how the market react, because again, different fans, different needs. We have 25 people already based in Miami, beautiful office where can visit if you want, but where we actually building our operation for all US, actually North America, including Mexico. And yeah, that's a big focus for us. And we have big expectation, but we also are very realistic and pragmatic that it will take at least 2 years to get where we want to be in US, the same way it took at least 3 years where we are right now in Europe. So keep that in mind. Continuing to invest, we will announce new Comme ça. Okay. We will announce new sports property as well in US. Not tennis, not basketball, and not any existing league that we've announced, but new leagues actually. Regulatory, I talk a little bit about it. Barca, I talk about it. Listing and new FTOs. Listing. So we have, I think, 4 or 5 late listings from teams. These will happen in September. So we're gonna launch them for the second half of September. The reason we were waiting is mainly because of the product. We felt, and same with the FTOs, we haven't done, or barely maybe just one, but we have done any FTOs since a few months, because we were really waiting to release and launch our new achievement, rewards, new app. We wanted to make sure that every single features we are launching are approved by Apple. I'm going to give you a bit of a behind-the-scenes stuff, but there is a reason you don't see any NFT-related app in the App Store. It's because they are not authorized. And you probably, if you Google how Coinbase or Trust Wallet or any other app got in trouble by the app stores in the past, because there is very strict policies. So when we release product, when we talk to Apple or Google, we want to make sure that the features we're launching ahead, or the thing we have in mind that we're launching in the next few weeks or few months, they will be approved by the App Store, which is the case. So now we feel more comfortable as well with our product, which lead us to actually relaunch waves of listing. So there is the 4 listings, I believe there is that we need to launch. Then there will be as well, I don't know, like 20 FTOs, maybe 30s. We have big ones like Sevilla, Benfica. We have teams we haven't announced. We have Indonesia. We have in Mexico. We have in Argentina, a big one, River. We have at least 20 to 30 teams we need to launch, either by the end of, probably by the end of the year, actually. And this will also be done in parallel with listing on third-party exchanges. We're actually going to experiment something we've done in the past. For those who remember, we did some FTOs, fan token offering, that were run both on Socios.com and Chiliz.net, where you needed a certain amount of Chiliz to get allocation on Chiliz.net. We're probably going to start to do that on a couple of big FTOs as well, and we even may going to consider to do that on third-party exchanges that we are working with. And that's going to be interesting, because we do realize that the more fan tokens are visible, the more they are available into different platforms, the more successful they will be from a user point of view, from utility and growth over time. Keep in mind that we always have 2 types of users. We have the early adopters, people who actually understand what we do at the first sight and don't need education about what we do. These are called the early adopters. These are the crypto native. There are more or less 150 to 200 million crypto native in the world. And statistically, some of them are obviously sports fan, or at least educated about sports brand. And therefore, they are the first wave of user we are looking at. And for these ones, we probably have 1% of market share at that point, which is great, but we aim to have much more in the next 5 to 10 years. Same with more casual fans. Casual fans and more organic fans are more difficult to capture, because we need to have a product that fits their need, and we need to educate about the product, because they don't know what is a fan token, they don't know what you can do with it, they don't know what is the benefit, and sometimes they read bad articles about thinking that it's bad, which is not. So there is a lot of education that needs to be done, and acquiring more organic/casual fans will be always the longest, let's say, journey for us, because it's going to take 5 to 10 years, but at least 2 to 5 years to grow significantly around that. But that's why we took, for example, Leo Messi as an ambassador, in order to give a bit of both trust and tell a story. We're just filming right now a new TV ad with him that will be centered around the utility of the platform and Leo Messi. We are going to focus on these 2 user base that usually, I like to say, they don't compete, they complete. What does it mean? It means that you could argue that sports team could do some of the stuff we are doing sometimes, and it's true, but they're not equipped for that. They are not equipped to scale that kind of development, innovation, regulation, technology, safety, and all of that stuff. So we do that on their behalf. But it also means that, again, the natural growth comes first from the crypto native, and then will grow through the more casual users. Casual fans are actually non-exclusive to one team as well. And that's one of the reasons what we do works. It's because fans of today, and definitely fans of tomorrow, are fans of multiple sports and multiple teams. You can be fan of Formula One because you follow Drive to Survive. You can be fan of UFC because you like this fighter, and you follow Barcelona and a little bit PSG because of Messi, and maybe another sports team or another sports at all. And so that's why it's important for us to aggregate all of this IP. It's because we're gonna create or continue to create an ecosystem where this scale, this network effect will make sense for both users, fans, and of course the clubs. Interesting thing we've done in the past, we are the first ever European company to actually have PayPal approved for a blockchain-based product. It took us 2.5 years to get there, but today in 5 or 6 countries, I think in Europe, you can already use PayPal in the Socios app, and we're gonna roll out more and more countries. The reason I'm saying that is because it's a lot of work in order to be able to engage with local payment methods. And actually next week, 22nd of, so next week I think, or the week after, we are releasing Apple Pay and Google Pay. And that's gonna be again a significant part because you're gonna be able to double click directly on your mobile phone in order to top up your wallet. And that's the kind of development we are doing. We are doing integration with banking in Turkey. We are doing integration with special payment providers in Argentina, in Brazil, in Mexico, who have completely different way of monetizing. Another, for example, interesting things we are doing in Mexico. When I was there in October, I think, and as you know, since we've signed, we haven't announced them, but we have 3 to 5 teams, the biggest ones, and what's interesting in Mexico is the teams, more than half of their fan base is actually outside of Mexico. It's in US. So they're always looking new ways for them to engage, number one, but also monetize their fan base in US outside of Mexico. And so that's the kind of relationship we're trying to build as well with the teams, because we're trying to become not an agency, it would be weird, but a tool, an accelerator of revenue, of new revenue stream, digital revenue for sure, for teams that wants to engage and monetize their international fan base, even though it's almost for them too domestic fan base, but we're going to focus on that. So we're going to continue to invest in these things. You're going to see us more and more in crypto events. We started to be, first there are more crypto events after COVID. So we are now present. I will be in Singapore with the team for token 2049 end of September. There are a few other crypto-related events we're going to be part of. There are way more sports or tech events we're going to be part of because, again, education. I'm actually going to be in a web summit in Lisbon in November with a famous football player that is working with us on a stage to talk about what we are doing. And that kind of initiative we're going to try to accelerate in the next 6 months to 1 year. That's the main things I think I wanted to say. I'm going to look at Joe once again to see if he thinks I should add something before I look at the questions on YouTube. So I will still go. Should I go on YouTube to check or? Just ask. Okay. So guys, if you can YouTube, if you can send question not on Twitter but on the YouTube page on the chat on the right, I'm gonna go there in few seconds and try to not make a loop with the sound. It's here. Okay, here I am. Okay. Can I share the summary of my speech? I can't, but I hope someone will do it. I know there was a question. I'm going to answer it because people always like, Binance, what about Binance? Let's talk about Binance. We have a very good relationship with CZ and Binance in general. The thing is, and what people need to understand, especially in Turkey, but everywhere, we do not decide who is listing what. That's the reality. Exchange are doing what they want, and they're the one deciding what they want to list. Now, keep in mind that the market has been very choppy, to say the least, for the last more or less 9 months. Actually, when you look at leading exchanges, they have they barely launched any, I'm not talking fan tokens in general, listing. Fan tokens is even a different story. I think what's important is we are going to continue, and you will see the announcement in 2 to 3 weeks. You've seen the new fan token zone that we launched on Gate, on, I'm looking at Joe, but Gate, what is the other? Bybit, MEXC, I think, and few other, Hobby, I believe, and few other to come. So there will be more and more exchanges, if we are talking about Chiliz and blockchain and trading right now, there will be more and more exchanges that are going to support what we are doing. And actually, in a weird way, and interestingly, the World Cup is going to give a little bit of exposure to what we are doing, not because we are focusing on that, we are not. Keep in mind that Crypto.com is actually the sponsor of FIFA World Cup, which is very cool. So every time you're going to watch a football match in November and December, you're going to see Crypto.com everywhere. I like to promote that because indirectly it will promote the whole ecosystem and the category as a whole. But yes, we do want to grow through more and more exchanges. And maybe one day it will happen that the leading exchanges will do or launch tokens with us again or not. Time will tell. It's not us to decide anyway, and it's not the point. I'm trying to read. When can we withdraw straight from bank or PayPal from Socios? That's not the plan for now. Actually, in US it will be the case. In US we will launch that, and that's going to be a test. That's going to be a test for us as well on how we want to do it, because it's easier. It's one currency. It's one country. It's much easier. But we always believe that having one token, one utility token in the middle of the whole ecosystem makes sense. Maybe we'll change, maybe we will improve, maybe in a few countries we will test that differently. But that's how it is for the time being. Token name, Chiliz 2.0, the max supply will increase? No. There will be a swap of the existing tokens. So there is 8.8 billion tokens right now on ERC20. That will be the same. You will just swap one for one. Actually, interestingly, just talking about Chiliz, we should have released already. There is 2.8, I think, or 2.7 billion token still left. We haven't because we don't have the need at that point, and we keep that token actually for the $50 million funds we are going to do and few other initiatives we are building. So we are not in a hurry to releasing more Chiliz, but there is definitely not an increase of supply, for sure not. This now will Germany. Oh, I mean, the app is available in Germany. Germany have a bit of a different approach because the teams they have there is this 51% rule. So the need of German fans is a little bit different, and yet we are not targeting, usually the domestic fans. But still, this is not a territory where even today on Socios.com we don't see a lot of Germans coming to engage with what we are doing. So the same way in UK is a very small market for us, probably less than 1%. So there are markets where we are not strong. We may have teams, but we are not strong in these markets. And for now, we are focusing mainly on markets where we can grow and new territories where we actually provide value for the user and the fans. Talking about esports for Tit and Bull. Esports is great, sometimes a bit of a disappointment because great audience, great teams, difficult to engage, small organizations. So it's difficult to create a lot of value for them as well, value as utility. And so we're trying to improve that. We are launching one big team in Brazil very soon. No, we haven't announced when, but I think we've announced the team. But there is a big esports team in Brazil, and that will be interesting because the passion / the audience in the country is actually higher than more traditional esports teams. So we're going to experiment a little bit more there. Cycling, no, we're not planning to do cycling. We don't like too much individual sports. Even though in cycling there are teams, it still will be very difficult to find the right model. So we don't do it for the time being. ATP. Maybe. When Real Madrid, let me call someone. You one day, let's put it that way. Are you partner of the World Cup 2022 in Qatar? No, we are not partner of the World Cup 2022 in Qatar or somewhere else. Crypto.com is the partner of the World Cup, and that's great because it's going to promote the crypto industry. But itself, it's not itself. it's a platform to promote football. Everybody's going to think about football. Everybody's going to think about the players of their national team playing in Paris Saint-Germain or somewhere else. So that's going to be interesting, but it doesn't have a direct impact as our product, even though we're going to have, I think, some game and some engagement product into the Socios app. Will you start to work? Well, we have 13 NFL teams we are working with. And as I said before, and to answer to all the questions about US, we are planning to launch one, our US app before the end of the summer, as planned. 2, to launch US fan tokens, which would be a little bit different and more specific to the local market, hopefully later this year, or depends on the regulatory framework. We are waiting guidance from them, but there is an appetite from the teams, from the leagues, and from us. So everybody is in the same boat in order to achieve that. I think that's it. National team, we do have a couple, as you know, maybe more actually before the World Cup. So stay tuned for more national team maybe. National team is actually a big question for us because the utility of national teams tokens are very limited. They don't own, they don't really own the image of the players. They don't have a stadium where they play all the time, very similar to Formula One. So these are sports property that are more difficult to engage with and to create interaction. So we're also trying to learn how we can improve that. And that will come just with time. Allez, I'm checking last ones and then it's enough. Are you a fan of PSG? I'm a fan of every single team we are working with. I'm neutral and agnostic. Are we going to announce new team joining in Chiliz? Yes. Chiliz and Socios, of course. And I think that's it for now. That's going to be enough for today, guys. I'm going to try to do that more often. I said that last time and I didn't follow up, so that's bad, but this time definitely going to do it. Had a very intense 2022 and 2021 and half 2022, but definitely going to focus to connect more and more and hope to see you soon. And make sure to download the latest Socios.com app to have the latest gamification and rewards feature. Thank you very much.